The night the rain hammered the windshield so hard it felt like the world was trying to wash itself clean, I took a shortcut I'd always sworn I'd never risk down past the deserted warehouses on the north side of Portland, where every building wore a coat of rust and mildew, where the only sound besides the rain was the hiss of tires on broken gravel. And I remember thinking, Hawthorne, you're too old for this kind of gamble. But then, right as I passed Warehouse 47, a little boy, no more than 6, bolted out of a doorway like he was running from the devil. Soaking wet, mud streaked across his face, eyes wild and terrified, nearly disappeared in the downpour. But when he pounded on my car, all I could hear was, "Help, please, my mom. She's in Sadesh, tied up." That was it. No more thinking, just action, yanking the keys, grabbing my phone for light, chasing him through rain that felt like needles. Inside, the stink of oil and rot, the way the neon bulb flickered, it was like walking into someone else's nightmare. In the floor, his mother, Claire, wrists and ankles raw and bleeding, blood soaking her dress, a brand burned in her leg owned by our Calloway, the name people only whispered when they thought no one could hear. I cut her loose with my pocket knife. The boy, Ethan, latched onto me, shaking, watching every move. I had to move slow, show him I meant no harm. You know what I mean? Even lifting his mom's dress to check the wound, I had to ask his permission. Sometimes the smallest voice in the room is the one that matters most. That brand, those words, they changed everything. Richard Calloway, the city's dirtiest secret, the man whose money seeped into every level of government, whose threats had silenced more than one person who tried to cross him. Claire faded in and out of consciousness, enough to mumble her name and then slip away again, and I was hit by this flashback. Me own sister Laura, the night she knocked on my door asking for help, and I'd hesitated, I'd been too careful, and in the morning, she was gone. Yeah, that happened, and I wasn't about to let it happen again. I carried Claire in my car, Ethan clutching my hand like I was the last lifeline he'd ever have, and as we pulled away, a white van slid out of the shadows behind us. No plates, moving too slow, like a predator stalking wounded prey. At the clinic, marry me friend, private doc, the only one I trusted not to call it in, rushed Claire to a back room. Stitched her up while I tried to get Ethan warm, keep him talking, keep him from shutting down. When Maria asked if I call the cops, I told her not it with Calloway's reach. Not until I knew I could keep them safe, not until we had proof locked down. That proof came tumbling out of Claire's fractured storage, stumbled on Calloway's scheme. Land records forged, millions at stake, and she'd hidden the evidence in a Seattle safe deposit box. That's when the tension dialed. U-pair tags stuck under my car, shadowy figures watching from across the street, a burner phone lighting up with threats. Done yet? Maria packed us with medical supplies, and I hustled Claire and Ethan into a battered Audi, swapped cars to shake the tail, and hit I-5 North, headlights carting up the night. Somewhere near Vancouver, I checked the Aurora dark sedan tracking us, just far enough back to keep plausible deniability. I didn't want to spook Ethan, but the kid was sharper than he let on, and he knew danger when he saw it. I ditched the sedan with some backroad maneuvering, but by the time we hit Seattle, I could feel the hunt tightening. The bank on Jefferson Street felt like a fortress until the moment the teller clicked open the safe deposit box, and Claire pulled out the files, the portable drive, and that little notebook, every page dripping with damning details. Dates, names, bribes, 27 of them, from cops to councilmen, all tied to Calloway. One name stopped me cold: Mark Reeves, supposedly a suicide, and suddenly I realized how deep this went. We set up a meeting with Samantha Reed, my lawyer friend, and just as we left the bank, Ethan spotted the man who'd hurt his mother, Travis Cole, with Derek Voss blocking the only exit. I told Claire and Ethan to run for the car while I faced Travis taunted me, but I raked it with my keys and used the chaos to throw everyone in the Audi, peel out backwards, slam the door into Derek, alarms blaring. We lost them for the moment, but that close call, yeah, it got my heart pounding. We landed in Olympia, laying low at a roadside motel. Phones switched, plans shifting by the hour. You ever notice how fear can feel like a living thing, breathing in the corner, just waiting for you to let your guard down? That's what those days felt like. Every knock at the door, every car in the parking lot could be them. I told Claire about Laura, about failing her, and I made a promise, right there, not to ever hesitate again. Maria sent a warning. Calloway's crew was in the area. When the clerk at the motel mentioned a woman using the same alias as Claire, we bailed, driving through the night, headlights behind us growing closer, until finally, at a rest stop, I caught a brakeman to plant a micro camera on the bad guy's sedan, got pictures of their surveillance photos proof that they'd been on us from the start. But as we drove on, they laid another trap, an old truck blocking the road split second decision, swerved out, lost them in traffic. Yeah, adrenaline does funny things to your memory, but I remember every detail. We stopped in Salem, because that's where the shell company for Callaway's fleet was based. Samantha met us near a nondescript office, her nerves nearly as fried as mine, and I used a key card swiped from the sedan to slip into their records room. Inside, wire transfers, photos, a USB labeled our full contracts, audio files of Callaway, Travis, Dara plotting, laughing, talking about cleaning up Holt. That was all the evidence we needed. We slipped out the side door as someone entered, and with Samantha at the wheel, raced back to Portland, straight to the FBI's field office. Special Agent Karen Douglas, sharp eyes, quiet authority, listened to the tapes, pored over the documents, and said the words I'd waited to hear for weeks. This is enough to bring him down. The feds moved fast, split into teams, closed in on Callaway's estate before he knew what hit him. That night, mist rising off the lake, wind snapping through the trees, the tactical team breached Callaway's mansion, tried to run, fired a shot that grazed me, but was tackled before he could make the dock. Watching him go down, hearing him spit threats, "You just signed your own death warrant." I just look him in the eye. "No, I signed yours." Travis and Derek went down too, caught in the garage, surrounded by more evidence than they'd ever imagined possible. The next morning, the papers splashed Callaway's mug across every front page. Untouchable no more. Empire collapsed. Life sentence. No parole. 35 years for his goons. Justice finally cracked through the city's surface, shaking loose all the worms wriggling underneath. But I'll tell you, victory in the courtroom isn't the same as peace at home. Claire and Ethan moved in with me, and at first, the house was quiet, every sound suspicious, every window double-checked. Ethan barely spoke, nightmares nearly every night, and Claire kept herself between him and every shadow. Healing is a slow, stubborn thing. Gets built out of small rituals, like sitting on the porch together or making hot cocoa for a boy who used to flinch at every voice. Maria helped Claire start therapy. I joined a few sessions, learned that being present mattered more than trying to fix everything with words. Ethan, little by little, came out of his shell one afternoon. He asked if I was a knight, and for the first time in years, I laughed for real, told him, "No, kid, just a guy trying to do what's right." That seemed to matter more than any fairy tale. The twist is Claire found purpose in her pain. She built the Ethan Foundation, supporting women and children running from violence, and I used every ounce of pull I had to back her up. We became a family not by blood, but by battle and survival. One summer, Ethan dreamed about us as heroes said. He saw Laura, my sister, with a big smile, and in that moment, I felt like maybe I'd finally made peace with the past. The world never gives back what it takes, but it gives you chances to become something new. Years passed, and the lake house filled with new life, laughter, music, the thump of Ethan's feet chasing after the neighbor's dog. One morning, he drew a treasure map, and we spent the afternoon digging by the big oak. Found a stone with a red streak. His treasure for me, because you found us. Sometimes, treasure isn't gold, it's the second chance you never thought you'd get. Claire, stronger than ever, spoke at a shelter, told her story not to relive the pain, but to show others that hope can outlast fear. "We can't change what happened," she said, "but we can choose how we live after." A decade later, Ethan, grown, now running the shelter himself, watched a scared boy walk in, bruises hidden, eyes full of everything he used to feel. Without a word, Ethan offered him a chair, hot chocolate, and the same stone I'd once given him, the same one that had traveled from my pocket to his, a small promise that nobody has to be alone. That's the circle, you know? A hand extended in the dark, a promise kept. And sometimes, late at night, when the rain taps the windows, when the world feels too heavy, I wonder, what would you have done in my place? Would you have stepped into the darkness of Warehouse 47? Or would you have driven on? What does justice look like to you? An arrest? A sentence? Or the quiet work of helping someone start again. Tell me, if you've ever stood on that line between fear and action, what did you choose? I'm here, reading every word, listening because sometimes what saves a life isn't heroics or power. It's showing up one broken night at a time and saying, "You're not alone.